Hey friends, welcome to the first episode of Film And for the fall semester of 2019. My name is Connor, and I'm the new host of the show, taking over from Jacob and the old crew. As the weeks progress, I will hopefully begin to assemble sort of a crew myself, with individuals who also love film discussion as much as I do. We'll also be addressing certain topics, like we'll be doing legacy episodes like we're doing today. We'll also be giving film reviews and discussions on older films as well. So first of all, guys, thank you for joining me. I'm really happy to be, a part of this and to have this position. And thank you for taking the time to listen. It really means a lot. I thought it'd be a cool idea to have my first show as host focus on someone that I've become a really big fan over the past year. And that's Sharon Tate. For those of you who don't know, Sharon Tate was an actress whose sadly short-lived career only lasted the entirety of the 1960s. Even though her career was very short-lived, she's still an iconic symbol of Hollywood at that point in history, and is even predominantly featured in certain aspects of popular culture today, such as Quentin Tarantino's newest film, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, in which she's portrayed by Academy Award-nominated actress Margot Robbie. Sharon Tate began her career at around the age of 18 in an uncredited role in the 1961 film Barbaros, which is about the criminal that was released from jail so that Jesus could be crucified. Her first credited role and steady gig came 2 years later when she portrayed Janet Trago, a secretary at the local bank on the popular sitcom Beverly Hillbillies. She appeared in 15 episodes of the show between the years of 1963 and 1965. In 1965, she guest starred as a therapist on an episode of the iconic spy series that preceded Mission Impossible: The Man from U.N.C.L.E. Like Mission Impossible, it was recently rebooted as a high-budget spy film, though with much less success. After her work in television, she turned her full attention towards film. Sadly, there were a couple years where she was not connected to any projects. Her big role came in 1967 with the film Eye of the Devil, which is a horror film about workers employed at a French vineyard following old pagan rituals in order to save crops during dry season. 1967 was also an immensely important year for Sharon Tate. Shortly after she wrapped production on Eye of the Devil, she met with the director Roman Polanski to audition for his horror spoof, The Fearless Vampire Killers. Tate eventually secured that role, and also Polanski's heart. The two quickly developed a deep connection and were married not too long after their initial meeting. In addition to The Fearless Vampire Killers, Sharon Tate also had a starring role in the Tony Curtis beach comedy Don't Make Waves, in which she portrays a skydiving surfer named Malibu, which, fun fact, her character was reportedly the inspiration for the Malibu Barbie. Well, friends, it's time for a short PSA break. When we return, we will discuss Tate's final and arguably most important film of 1967, The Valley of the Dolls.
Indoor baseball, anyone?
Most party fouls are pretty dumb, but if you decide to drink and drive underage, you could lose your license and your freedom. Learn more at ultimatepartyfoul.org. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Okay, forest animals, today is a new day. Kids are coming to the forest, and it's up to us to make their visit a good one. Sparrow.
Yes?
Have you practiced the most popular bird songs for the year?
Of course.
Catchy. I like it. Okay, River.
Dude,
How's the temperature?
it's a refreshing 52 degrees, man. Perfect for a little riverside shoeless relaxation.
Ah, good. Owl, you here? Course. Who's asking? I am. Look, you know the drill. Sleep during the day, scare the kids at night. Perfect. I love my job. Oak Tree?
What's up?
Still in the same place I left you last year. That's what I like. Consistency.
Well, it's not like I'm going anywhere for the next couple hundred years.
I know. I love it. Turtle.
He's not here yet, man.
He's late every morning. You'd think he would have learned by now to leave the night before our meetings. Okay. Squirrel. Has anybody seen Mr. Squirrel?
The Forest has been preparing just for you. Visit a forest near you today. To learn more about cool things to do in the forest, visit discovertheforest.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Hey friends, welcome back to Film And. Let's get back into Sharon Tate's career and fall deep into the Valley of the Dolls. For those of you who are not aware, the film Valley of the Dolls is based on the best-selling novel of the same name by Jacqueline Suzanne that was published in 1966. The book was considered risque at the time and even trashy by some, due to its portrayals of sex and drug abuse, both very taboo topics at that point in history. In addition, the film also addressed topics like abortion. However, this did not deter people's interest in the novel. In fact, it was quite the opposite. The book was a massive success, becoming the best-selling book of that year, and it has since sold over 31 million copies. With this rampant success, a film adaptation was a necessity. Sharon Tate was cast to play Jennifer North, A beautiful actress that sadly did not have much talent, which is ironic because Sharon Tate is arguably the best performance in that film. The other female leads were played by Patty Duke, who portrayed Neely O'Hara, who was a young starlet, and Barbara Parkins, who portrayed Ann Wells, who was a receptionist at a talent lawyer's agency. When the film was released, it was met with very negative opinions from critics. Though much like the book it was based on, the audiences adored it. The film ended up grossing over 5 times its original budget. Audiences fell in love with Sharon Tate, and for a very good reason. I'm biased, because I love her and the film, but Jennifer's character and Sharon's beautiful performance are the heart and soul of that movie. I think that's clear to see anytime you watch it. Sharon Tate quickly became a household name. This paired with the success of Roman Polanski's newest film, Rosemary's Baby, the couple became 2 of the biggest names in Hollywood. This is where we get into the parts I'm not really a huge fan of, and I hate I have to bring this up, but it is part of her story nevertheless. Shortly after completing her final film, 12+1 in Italy, a pregnant Sharon Tate returned to LA where her and Roman Polanski were renting a house on Cielo Drive in Benedict Canyon. A few months later, while Polanski was in England working on his latest film, Sharon Tate, who was 8.5 months pregnant at the time, and 4 other individuals in her home, Jay Sebring, Wojciech Warkowski, Abigail Folger of Folger Coffee, and Stephen Parrott were murdered by 3 members of the Manson family. This event rocked Hollywood and the world as a whole, as it very well should have. Manson and those who committed the murders were convicted and sentenced to death in 1971. They would have been executed if not for California's temporary abolition of the death penalty a year later. Their sentences were instead changed to life in prison. One of the killers, Susan Atkins, died in prison in 2009. Manson himself died in 2017. The rest of the individuals convicted are still serving their sentences and have been denied parole on numerous occasions. If you do choose to go see Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, this topic is also very much addressed, though Tarantino does take a revisionist history approach like he did in a previous film of his. And while it is part of her narrative, I honestly implore you not to think of Sharon Tate as a victim, because she wasn't. She was so much more than that. From the research I've done and the interviews I've seen, she was a kind soul who had a deep love for the people around her and the craft of acting. And I'm sorry, I'm going off script here. I had a whole script prepared, but I think it's important, especially when you're talking about the life of someone, that you speak honestly. And I think that's the best thing I should do right now. I was obviously not alive when Sharon Tate passed, but even being separated by around 40 years, I can still recognize that we did lose someone amazing that day. And thankfully, film as a medium transcends. And it stays. It doesn't disappear once the person is gone. And we're very lucky for that. Because if that were the case, we'd miss out on so much more. And even though they took her from this world, they can never take the memories and the films she left behind. So if you do decide to check out Sharon's work, and I honestly do implore you to do so, I highly recommend Valley of the Dolls. I'm biased because it's the first thing I saw her in, and I did love the book before then. But if you watch that film, you will see the beauty in her. And she portrays Jennifer, which I don't want to spoil the film for you, but character who does for various emotional moments with such integrity and honesty. And in a book and film that people criticize as being trashy, Sharon Tate is the symbol of kindness and honesty and purity. There's not a false note in her performance. I fell in love with Sharon Tate in that film, and I'm very sure you will as well. Well, sorry to end my first episode on kind of a somber note, but I do think it's important, like I said, to discuss, especially when someone is killed and they die before their time, that you treat that with respect and honesty, and you don't rehearse that in any way. Thank you guys for joining me for this small tribute to an amazing woman. I will be back next week with possibly another legacy segment. I am considering a couple actors right now. Me and my roommate Clay recently saw Hustlers, and I have been debating if that should be an episode of the podcast as well. If you want to see extended thoughts on some of the movies we discussed today, like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, or just curious on my opinions on film as a whole, don't hesitate to follow me on Letterboxd at Crand, CRAND, Barry 18. Thank you, guys. Hey guys, it's me again. I didn't really leave for you, but I just want to end this episode with kind of a preview of what is coming up. The next couple weeks, you can expect an episode about the film Joker, directed by Todd Haynes, starring Joaquin Phoenix, as well as once this calendar year is wrapped up, you can expect a top 10 list from me, 10 most anticipated films of the year, and a little award show, which I'm not sure on the name yet. I'm thinking about the Filmies or the Andes, something about our name, but there will be categories like Best Picture, Best Director, Best Male Performance, Best Female Performance, both lead and supporting, as well as cinematography and technical categories like that. And I'm very excited for that, and I think hopefully you guys will dig it. I'll also be kind of active on the blog posts, so if you're into that kind of thing, do not hesitate to check that out. And I will do, the award show will be there, the nominees, and once the winners are announced by me, they will also be up there as well. Okay, bye guys. Thanks for listening.